Now, this car came with a full service history, and that's something that I want to maintain. So what we're going to do today is we're going to give the Golf a service. Okay, so for the service, what are we actually going to carry out? We're going to go a bit above and beyond, in my opinion. So we're going to do all the normal. So we're going to do the engine oil, oil filter, fuel filter, air filter, and the cabin filter. Then I noticed when I was doing the rear wheels that the back brakes were heavily lipped and the pads were quite worn. So we're going to do the rear disc and pads. The fronts are actually okay. They might have recently been done. And then we're going to do new registration plates because the ones that were on it were a bit tatty, and I've taken the number plate holder off, so we're going to stick it onto the front just for a cleaner look. And if you are interested in these registration plates, I got them from IG Detailing. He's got a website, he's got an Instagram page, he's got a Facebook page. Go and give him a like and a follow. And if you're in the market for some new plates, definitely check him out. He does the 4D plates and all that. In this instance, I've just went for the regular plates, just because we're going for a kind of standard look with this car. But anyway, let's go on with the service. So just for a little bit of bonus footage, we're going to do an engine bay detail as well, because it is extremely grubby under here and in dire need of a good clean up. Alright, so to kick this service off, we're going to change the pollen filter, which is really straightforward in the Golf. There's two screws that are finger tight that you take off, then there's one cover which just flops down, and then there's a sliding cover holding the pollen filter in place. Once you get the sliding cover off, you can pull the pollen filter out, compare it to how clean your new pollen filter looks, and then put your new pollen filter back in, and just repeat the process in reverse order to get everything back in where it should be. Next up is going to be the air filter. This is pretty straightforward again. T25 screws, there's a series of them round the air box. Take them off, lift the lid off the air box, take your old air filter out, have a little compare to your new air filter, put your new air filter in, and again repeat the process in reverse order to get it back together. Now then, staying in the engine bay, and next up is going to be the fuel filter. Now the fuel filter is held on by 5 T30 screws, and I didn't have a T30 attachment, socket, so what I had to use was a T30 with an adjustable spanner to get them off because they were quite tight. Then you need a flathead screwdriver just to prise the lid off. You'll disconnect your old fuel filter from the top of the lid and put it in a plastic container. There will be diesel in this, so just be careful that you don't spill it everywhere. Now look at your new fuel filter and realise that Euro Car Parts have given you the wrong fuel filter. So back in with the old one until I can nick over to Euro Car Parts and get a replacement. Although the process that I'm showing is exactly how you would go about replacing your fuel filter if you were putting a new unit in, except you would change the O-ring as well. So still in the engine bay, I've took off the oil cap, I've taken out the dipstick, and it's time to do the oil change. So next thing is to get underneath the car and crack the sump plug, which in this occasion was on ridiculously tight. So just get that cracked, loosen it off, get your bucket under and just watch that oil drain out. Next thing I'm going to do while the oil's draining out is I'm going to change the oil filter. The lid for the oil filter housing requires a 32mm socket to get it off, and it's pretty straightforward. Get it off, pull your old oil filter out, have a little look at it. It'll be pretty dirty, pretty grubby. Make sure you get the little stick part of the oil filter out. There we go. And then this is the difference between the old and the new. Following on from that, you're going to replace the O-ring for the lid for the oil filter housing. That should come with your oil filter. And then it's just a case of putting everything back together in reverse order, making sure not to over tighten anything. The oil filter housing doesn't need to be ridiculously tight, neither does the sump plug. They just need to go on and then a little nip up. If you can get the torque settings for your car, then follow the torque settings. last thing that you need to do is fill up with new oil, leave it a few minutes. I leave it overnight and I'll check for leaks in the morning. I promised you some bonus footage with a quick engine bay detail, so here it is. Now that we've finished everything up in the engine bay in terms of oil, filter, air filter and fuel filter, it's time to give the engine bay a quick once over. I'm not putting any dressings on it or anything just now, I'm just giving it a quick clean down. Just using the hose, I don't need my pressure washer, and then in my spray bottle I've got some Garage Therapy Zero at 10:1 dilution, and that's just going just to clean up the engine bay a little bit, give it a nice wee tidy up. And you may not have noticed, but due to the alternator being so high up in this car, I've stuck a plastic bag over it just to give it a bit of protection from the water. And now that we're finished up with all the water, I've got my SGCB air blower out and I'm just blowing all the water out. This is just a quick way to get the engine bay nice and dry if you're going to apply dressings, which in this instance I'm not, but I still want it nice and dry anyway. Alright, we've got to get these rear discs and pads changed over now. Shouldn't take too long, pretty straightforward to change out the rear discs and brakes on the Golf 5s. So to start off with, you're going to need a 15mm and a 13mm spanner, and this is going to help you get the the caliper off of the caliper carrier. Pretty straightforward, 15mm on the inside and the 13mm on the outside. Take the two bolts out and you should be able to just take the caliper off. In this instance for me, it was really stuck on there and it didn't come off quite as easily as I expected it to. So a flathead screwdriver and a little bit of gentle persuasion just to ease it out of there, and then you can look at getting the pads off. And again, these were super tight and needed a little bit of gentle persuasion. I've come across the joys of working on Volkswagens here. Basically the rear pad is stuck in, it's not for coming out, so I'm going to need to get the caliper carrier off, which I would need to take off anyway, but I need to get the caliper carrier off so as I can get that other rear pad out. There's actually a decent amount of life left on them, but they're absolutely wrecked. The whole kind of back end needs a good clean up, a good wire brush. But one of the uniquenesses of Volkswagens is that they use these kind of star style bolts. They're not Torx and they're not regular bolts. They're a pain in the arse because I need a 14mm one to get the caliper carrier bolts off, which means that I'm going to need to leave, go to Euro Car Parts or Halfords or something and pick a set of these up. Anyway, let's go and get what we need and then we'll get back. Alright, so I'm going to call it a day in the video. I went to Halfords, I went to Screwfix, I went to Euro Car Parts, and nobody had an M14 spline that I need to finish off the caliper. So I've ended up having to order one from Amazon, which will hopefully arrive tomorrow. But I don't want to drag this video out too long now. I'll provide a wee update if you follow me on Instagram. All in all though, we've still been quite productive. We've got the oil and the filter done, the cabin filter. I managed to get the fuel filter changed over, so I've done that. And what else have we done? We've cleaned up the engine bay a little bit, made a start on the brake discs and pads, and oh yeah, the other thing, went to do my new number plates and I couldn't find my double-sided tape. Don't know where it is. I've seen it about the house but I cannot remember where I've put it and I couldn't find it, so that's going to need to be one for an Instagram update as well. But in the meantime, if you are enjoying this kind of content, I need you to do two things for me to help support the channel. Hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. That's all. So please take care, and I'll see you on the next one.